Well, good morning. What a fun weekend for Jazz fans. Hope everyone is well. Yes, I'm out a few light bulbs on our YouTube video, so it's nice and dark. Just means it uploads faster. It's good. Hope everyone's well. Let's run through everything that's out there. Congratulations to the 16 remaining teams. A lot to talk about. BYU's season came to an end. Actually, though, I think we may have talked about that for a brief moment on Friday. The Jazz fans, we should embrace NC State. Sidney Lowe's certainly excited. Those are all his kids that he recruited, and they are in the Sweet 16. So exciting news there. I've been telling you all year long that the Jazz have a chance to make the playoffs, which just is stunning. If they can get their home wins to equal their road wins to equal their home losses. And here we sit on March 19th with about 22 games left or so, and they're there. We'll see if 33 actually gets you in, but this is incredibly stunning. ESPN and NBA.com chose the Jazz to finish last in the Western Conference. I'm not sure I was willing to go that far, but I certainly saw the Jazz. I would say that I thought the Jazz chances again, the Warriors draft pick would be helped by the Jazz. In other words, I thought they might be one of the bottom 7 teams. There were days where when I saw how the Western Conference schedule was, that you played all of your own teams, and we weren't going to get any easy wins, that I legitimately thought that we could have one of the worst records in the NBA. And these guys and every person in this organization deserves huge accolades. There have been more griping and more questions and more opinions about the direction, the coaching, the minutes, and everything else about this team. And those debates can still be had. But the fact of the matter is that this organization decided that while developing the young kids, they want them to play, quote, meaningful minutes in a playoff race, learning how to play the game right, learning how to play the game hard. Did not want to cheat the fans by going through a rebuilding year. Kevin was insistent on that. And they've done it. Regardless of what happens from here on out, they've done it. Here they sit, half game out of the playoffs on this day. It's really, I don't know if it's quite as mind-boggling as the year they were supposed to win 8 games, because there is a lot of talent. Not entirely figured out talent, but there's a lot of talent. They are a half a game behind Houston. They are tied with Phoenix, who has the hardest schedule and 13 of the remaining 21 games on the road. The Jazz, who have 21 remaining games, have 11 of them on the road and 10 of them at home. Some of them are tough and a lot of travel, and it's beginning to wear you out. They've played incredibly hard, though, every night. Houston sits a half game ahead of the Jazz, and we are likely going to have a podcast today with Craig Ackerman, the radio voice of the Rockets, to talk about where things sit. Of course, unless I blow them off for the 20 inches of powder that's out there, which I probably won't do. So let's talk about the weekend. The overtime win against the Warriors and a super win in L.A., playing possession-by-possession basketball in the fourth quarter with, for the most part, Burks, Hayward, Favors on the floor, and the night before, the same 3 with Harris and Millsap. Lots of different discussion points. Let me see if I can fly through most of them and see if I have time to get to Locke tip-off before I have to get the kids. Favors has to be the first story here. The kid is just unbelievably skilled, and every night makes two or three plays that, as much as you can love grit and desire and all of these other things, unless you have amazing, unbelievable talent, you can't make. And the kid has it. And I think he's beginning to understand from interviewing him in our feature interview last night that he's still got a long way to go, but that he's got a skill set that's pretty unique. He was the, at one point, high school player of the year, and that he has a chance to be great. He said that exactly to me. His 9 for 9 free throw shooting the other night was remarkable. His play on the road recently has been terrific, which is a huge step. Maybe the thing that I am most impressed about from Favors is that last night against the biggest of the big, and in Bynum, who he really looked dwarfed by at times, and by Gasol, without having an offensive game that he can go to and know, in a move he's trying to get to, he still finished the night with 12 points, 10 rebounds, 4 assists, a new career high, and a steal. His defense is fabulous. He's the best defensive player on the team. They held the Lakers to 45% shooting last night. The Lakers did go to the free throw line 40 times due to some Staples Center whistles, so it wasn't a completely electric defensive performance, but it was really quite good. The night before against actually a better offensive team than the Lakers, in the Golden State Warriors, the Jazz had a better defensive night at home, but they always have a better defensive night at home. But that for last night's game, for that kind of defensive performance on the road was really remarkable. But when I look at the way Burks and Favors played the last two nights, maybe it's the games where they weren't as awe-inspiring. Favors 23 points and 17 rebounds against Golden State was awe-inspiring. But it was his game last night and Burks' game against Golden State that maybe I think are the most impressive. Burks was not unreal against Golden State. He was just good. He was just solid. Favors last night was just solid. And in many ways, that's the sign of how far these guys have come, that when they're not having everything go their way, when they're just existing on the floor, that they're having a positive impact on the game and the outcome of the game. Burks is really special. He's going to score in this league. We've said this a lot. I tweeted out last year when I was doing my draft reports, I think I've seen my first kid that can be an all-star, and part of that is all-stars are built by guys who score 20 points a game. The player he reminded me a lot of was Latrell Sprewell in some ways. He doesn't have the back-to-the-basket game, post-up game that Latrell had, but Latrell was able to be a huge impact defensively on games. Yes, I know he had some off-the-court issues, but and I think there's rumors that he's broke now, but he was 6'5", he was 190, and he was able to play a very impressive back-to-the-basket game. And he probably overshot the three at points in his career when he was with New York and Golden State when he shot them 400 times a game, or a season, excuse me. But this was a guy who went to the free throw line in his prime 5, 6, 7 times a game, and while he only shot 43, 44%, he scored 18, 19, and 24 points a game. I don't know how far Burks can go, but I think he can be an 18-point-a-night scorer in this league. And I've always believed that from the first day I laid eyes on him and believed he could be an all-star. He's got special body control. His first step coming through the lane over Kobe Bryant last night, past Kobe Bryant last night late in the game was wow. And then he's got a level of guts and gumption. He said it last night. He's opening up a little bit more, but he said last night, I came out of college because I believed I could play with these guys. And he certainly did. Cantor's stretch from the third to fourth quarter. Let me stop here for a second. I'm talking about the young guys because I think that's where your interest is. But I think you've got to give Millsap credit for the two-night game he put together. The collective defensive effort, communicating between and that everyone put out on every play in the last two nights was vastly different than what we've seen. Devin Harris's play hit some big shots last night, but more than that, his overall play, controlling the game, staying in the moment, was really terrific. Um, and so, Jamal Tinsley, I thought last night kind of took a step backwards, but played well. We got to make sure that we don't just become so. C.J. Miles' defense last night on his birthday was terrific. His work on Kobe was as good as I've seen. Um, and Kobe obviously was missing shots, often shots he makes, but he never got a rhythm. And there was probably only one or two times where the Jazz gave him an easy possession to be able to possibly get into that rhythm. So really, I want to make sure that we don't forget that these young kids played really well, and the Laker win was awesome. The Warrior win, frankly, the Warriors are awful and they're tanking, and the fact it took overtime was, I kind of left the Warrior game thinking to myself, "Woo, that's a hard win to get on a game you probably should get." But last night's win was very different than that. That was adverse circumstances, whistles going against you, arena going against you, playing a 13-time All-Star who was way off his game, but he's still a 13-time All-Star. The Pau Gasol's still who he is. Bynum's still who he is. That team's very weak in some other ways. Frankly, their bench actually outplayed the Jazz last night. But that was a great win. Cantor offensive stretch last night in the third and fourth quarter was remarkable, and here's why. He showed a patience level, an understanding of what he was trying to do that he has never shown before. He has one post move. We joke about it all the time, but it's abundantly clear that that's all he has. It's a move to the middle and then a drop step. He worked himself high enough up the lane that he was able to use that. He hit a jump hook to the middle early in the game, which is going to be his counter move, which then makes that move fake to the middle legitimate for the rest of the night. Then as he continued to get Bynum to bite on it, he stepped through in a different angle on a second step through once. And we began to see some variations off the initial post move, which we've never seen from him before. More importantly, the biggest center in the Western Conference and the best center in the Western Conference reasonably decided they were going to guard him single team. And he beat them time and time and time again in the post on single coverage. They would feign a double team, and he was patient enough to hold the ball in the post, let that double team leave, get back to his man, and then finish his play. Those are enormous development steps. And the fact that at 19 years old, in single coverage, they couldn't defend him. Woo! I mean, that's a big deal. Gordon Hayward's kind of on and off again. Play is probably how he may be. This may be who he is. As he gets more time, he plays with guys more. Games won't drift away from him as much as this one just did last night, though he played well defensively. But for him to be the best player on the floor at times with incredible plays against the Warriors and then against the Lakers being guarded by Kobe, he just kind of went away. I think that he's a complementary player on a good team. He's going to be an incredible piece for a good team when we're ready to be good. But that's, I think, who he is. Now what? Tyrone Corbin's job just keeps getting tougher and tougher and tougher. I have been begging, pleading to start making some substitutions based on the defensive end, that the defense had reached a level in which this team had gotten bad enough. They were the worst in the NBA in March until this two-game span. Or actually, I guess till the Minnesota win on Thursday. That something had to change, And it's frankly Favors brings a defensive presence that Al Jefferson can't. Al Jefferson's defense, particularly in space, overall though, with the amount of effort he puts on the offensive end, and then doesn't always have enough left in the tank on the defensive end, is a significant issue. And I don't know what you do. Favors right now, frankly, is probably playing as a center. He may be a power forward one day, but he's playing as a center. And I don't think you can look at Al Jefferson and say, hey, you went to a funeral and you were averaging 20 and 10 prior to that and carrying us, and you're going to the bench. And I tell you what, Tyrone Corbin has done a marvelous job of keeping everybody happy every day, but his job just got a lot tougher. And I don't know what you do about Raja. I mean, it's very easy for us to sit here and say, well, Raja just shouldn't play the rest of the year. Now, that's easy to say. Now, is that really where we're going to go? And what happens with the point guards? I mean, Earl's pretty close to it, ready to play. So this team and the depth that was built by Kevin O'Connor in this lockout season, which has either been related or coincidental to a lot of good health so far by the Jazz. The Jazz have played the fewest amount of 40-plus minute games by anyone on the team, have had the second best health as of this moment. And it is at the same time your blessing and your curse. And I don't know the answer on how this works. But there is no debate left that this team has to have more of a defensive presence, and that was shown the last few days. I said about 2 weeks ago, I think, that I could argue that the four best players in this team were all the young kids, that they're just more talented, and that's why they had the draft position they did. And I think that's probably still true. And so the question now is, it doesn't mean they're better, but they're more talented. And now the question is how you allow that talent to foster in a roster this deep. It's going to be very difficult. I do not envy Ty in any way, shape, or form. That is tip-off today. If you want to be a part of the Jazz excitement, season tickets for next year are available. The operators are standing by. 325-2999. That's 325-2999. Have a good one.